Here we go. Charlie, thank you for coming back once more to the Forward Muddle podcast. Um, we were discussing previously your kind of backstory and just the whole. I'm trying to get the right words for it. So, like, obviously, this podcast is called Forward Muddle, and I feel as though like that resonates with your beginning. Like, you have muddled forward with laser-like intent, all the way through, and it hasn't been this linear process. It's been like, "Oh, fucked it. Oh, this is excellent. Oh, this is the end for me. Oh, no, this is a new beginning. This is what joy is supposed to feel like. This is what failure teaches."
Hmm.
And so, I don't know, do you agree with me?
Completely. Like it definitely. It's been an absolute minefield at times. It has, and it's almost like I always say to people, like I'm an accidental athlete. Like I wasn't brought up as a kid to be an athlete. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't one of these people that had the right guidance in the right places and had all the structures in there. It's literally been a sort of, oh, this door goes there, perfect. And opening the doors, I'm like, oh, cool, what's on the other side? And it has just been yeah, like I don't feel like yes, I always wanted it. Yes, and since I was a kid and I understood what the Olympics were and I understood what competing was, like, oh yeah, I want to win that. Like cool. But it was like I had no idea how on earth to get there. It's just been a stage by stage thing and I've had some guidance along the way, but there's been a lot of it that's just been working out as you go along,
Yeah.
which yeah, is that muddling forward.
It is, and to me, like, always try and put it in the way that sits well in my brain. It's like a curiosity, like, "Oh, I'm curious about that. Where is that gonna take me to?"
Hmm.
And that is when, because so the other day, Charlie and I were talking about talent. I was like, "Charlie, come and do a podcast." And she was like, "We should talk about talent." Because it is such a, like, dividing topic. And Charlie was like putting forward, like, I'll let her explain it in a moment, like her viewpoint for talent, and how she was this accidental athlete and doors just opened. And I'm like, hell no, like a door didn't just appear for you. Like, you were brave enough to go fearlessly at something, even if that was going to get you like utter failure. And so you created those doors. Like, the thing was, you then made the choice whether to go through them or not. Like, that's
Hmm.
my stance.
Yes, yeah, and to be fair, I think I've been fortunate enough to be in a position where those doors have been available, so to speak. Like I have had, it's not, yeah, well, I had my grandparents live near Kangaroo Mountain, so I could
Yes.
choose to go skiing. And my parents, my dad ski race, so he knew, okay, we'll join them up to the local ski racing club. So I did that, and then there's this bursary available to go out to France so that you can train for 6 weeks, like on the actual snow when you're 11. Like that doesn't happen for everybody. And yeah, I got that. And so like I've been fortunate enough to be in those positions for those opportunities to be available to me, which is great. And obviously have parents that have supported me in taking a different path because this the stick leaving school from a lot of people when I left with perfectly good grades. I left with a university place and I chose not to go, and I chose to do something that only 10 years later has started earning me any money or anything close to any
It's
sort of an
mental.
income. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like for my entire, I'm 29 now, so for pretty much my entire 20s I've been living off of a student loan or grants or with my parents, that kind of, and I've really had to rely on those people to have the belief in me as well. But my thing with talent is I think it is an idea that really limits a lot of people because people think, I'm not talented enough to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could paint, but I'm not talented at painting. Or I wish I could run, but I'm not talented at running. And it's like, no, you can run and you can paint and you can pretty much do anything. And this is why we've got Paralympians, we've got people in wheelchairs who are, or people with their double amputees still walking up Everest. That's the
Yeah,
latest thing I've
that's
seen. But
incredible.
do you know what I mean? So that person didn't think, oh, I've got no legs. I can't walk up Everest. I'm not talented enough to walk up there. It's like, yes, you are. Everybody can do anything. But the idea of talent people think, "Oh, but I'm not good enough to be painting." And it's like, you've got to start somewhere.
Like, you have to be
You
born
have
with
to
an
be born
innate
exactly with this innate
ability.
ability to do something. And I think, no, you just practice.
Yeah, and,
Yes, there are people that are good at it, like without much practice. But I think that's just they've got a way of thinking about it, or they've got a way of doing it, or Usain Bolt had or Michael Phelps had a massive arm span. His arms were so long, so it gave him a bit of an advantage with
yeah.
swimming. But people can still be better than him.
Yeah. Well, that makes me think of kind of two things there. So when you look at what talent is, it's some people are genetically predisposed that are to be better at certain things, just like you said. But if they don't use or develop that talent, it's useless. And I always remember, oh no, what was it? There was two things then that just jumped into my head. One has fallen out, but the second is I always remember Ant Middleton, like SAS Who Dares Wins. He was like he was too short to go SAS. Like he couldn't do all of the what is it like? We literally know military people like what tabbing. Couldn't do all the tabbing, so like running with heavy weights on the back. And he kept failing everything because he wasn't like the best. He didn't have the talents to do that. Physically, he
Mm.
wasn't there. And he was like, hell no. Like he found that fire within him and he just was like, he said it's like a dog with a bone, just went for it, went for it, went for it, went for it until he could like absolutely outdo everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
and then that's it. It's like there's one or two people that will have a few of like what we would maybe call talent is that innate ability, that innate way of like picking something up and being good at it because they're genetically advantaged or something. But the vast majority, almost like 98% of us, it's literally just practice. And it's literally just that mindset of, no, I can do that. Or I'm going to do this again and again and again until it's perfect.
yeah, or I'll
And like,
try that. Being able to like adjust
yeah, like
self.
I will put it out there, I'm not a natural athlete. I'm not I am absolutely not like my biomechanics are not good for running. Like I've got quite short legs, a very long body. There's all these bits and pieces that are just not something that you'd be like, you know what, I'm designing an athlete. I'm going to give them all these bits and pieces. I've got an autoimmune condition. There's a lot going on which would say, no, that's a disadvantage. And they are disadvantages. But the thing is that at certain points I've doubled down and been like, no, I'm going to get this right. I'm going to be able to skip until I can't skip anymore. I'm going to be able to jump off things. Jumping, that was a huge thing for me. And especially, like my knees would drop in or my glutes wouldn't be strong enough. And they're the first thing that are always a problem. They're always a problem for me. But like, and as in like, I need to always make sure I'm on top of strengthening them. That they'll never go, I'm not yet naturally able. But there's been a lot of practice that's gone in to then against the person who hasn't practiced, I look like I am naturally able. And I think a lot of people stop at the first sign of being like, oh, I'm not as good as someone else because they're talented. And
Yeah.
I think that's quite an interesting.
Well, they're seeing you they're seeing a 10-second version of you, or I see like so the other child who was slacklining in my garden and like she crushed it. Oh, I've not done this since last year. Like diddly diddly do up and down, and then I'm like, Charlie, hold me as I try and walk up and down this line. And it would be so easy for me to be like, oh my God, like just the shame of like failing hard in front of Charlie. But then I'm like, actually, that is
I started
me seeing
practicing
20 years of
slacklining.
your effort.
Yeah, I started practicing slacklining when I was about 17, so 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
yeah.
and this is the thing, and I find it's such an interesting topic because the other thing that had bits just come back to me. So we look at child prodigies and geniuses, so the ones who have been really lauded when they've got that they are one step ahead. Like they are born with a capacity and ability that is greater than the general population. But actually, when you follow them, many who have been told they're amazing, they're so good, like, by the time they hit their 20s, like, they've averaged out.
Mm,
Like, they are because everybody else has caught up with them because they haven't then they've lived off talent.
mhm,
"I should be good at this. Oh my god, I'm not good at this. I'm gonna
mhm.
stop right here." So because they have been labeled as gifted, as talented, it's done them a disservice.
Mhm.
They've lost the scrappiness, they've lost the ability to want to strive and do well. So potentially the ability that you're not the idea that you're not a natural athlete may be one of the best things
Yeah.
that made you excel in the
Well,
sport.
yeah, I think so, and, um, none of the kids who were very good when I was, say, under 15 level, none are still skiing.
Really?
Yeah, none.
Well,
Maybe one made it through. We were teammates for a long, long time, and she's just retired now, and she was good when we were kids, but there was a whole host of people who were consistently good at under 15 level that never made it to, say, a Europa Cup. Like, that's the sort of second tier of racing. That's like Formula 2.
okay.
None of them made it. I think that's obviously in a sport like ski racing, there are some barriers like finances, etc., which is rubbish. But I think that is the case that you see across a lot of sports is that it doesn't matter actually what your abilities are at 15. Your mindset is more important,
Yes.
and your mindset to be able to. I don't know, yeah, that gritty, grisly part of you that's like, as I've said, mine was, I'm not going to be forgotten. I will be good at this. I
Yeah.
will be good. But it's those kind of it's just that grit that you need in the background, and that's all. I'd say that is more important than talent.
Yeah.
I quite often found myself in situations where I felt maybe undermined or not undermined. My self confidence was at a low because I'm like, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
Like, why are there kids that can do this? I can't do
Yeah.
this.
'Cause you were human.
Those were really horrible moments, and really soul destroying moments. But that's ultimately what gives you the drive. Because yeah, if you don't have things that you're bad at, how do you know what to work on? That's also the other thing. I'm like, how do you know what to do next?
But this is like, this is where there's the distinction between you and the vast majority of the population, and I'll explain that. So, when we look at kind of mindsets and beliefs, we can fall back to the work of Carol Dweck. So she explores growth mindsets and fixed mindsets, and like this is a huge topic. So we can be like, where does our mindset come from? Is it our family? Is it society? Our education system? All of these different things. But we have got individuals who have got a fixed mindset. And if we feel as though we have got a fixed, if we have got, sorry, a fixed mindset about something, we feel as though we should innately be good. So effort is shameful. Like putting hard work is shaped because you should just naturally be able to do things. You should naturally be excellent at things. Whereas a growth mindset is like a curiosity, just like the words that you're saying are that.
Okay.
So with a growth mindset, it's oh, okay, so I got that wrong, but it's not me that is wrong. It is the process that I have used. It is the way I applied my skills. It is not having the right skill necessarily to do that task yet.
Okay.
Um, and so all of a sudden, when we have got this fixed mindset and we don't want to try, we don't want to push because we feel as though we should just be clever, we should be athletic, we should be artistic, it limits us from ever trying because it's shame. To me, it brings a sense of shame onto you and it's internalized. I cannot separate myself from my abilities, my ego, my skills. But with that growth mindset, it's like failure is excellent because failure is it's about learning. It's like where do I develop from here? That's such a growth mindset statement. Like, how am I going to develop from here? Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. And that's to me, when we look at that idea of talent and grit, it's because we've got that growth mindset. Like, what are we most curious about? How will we be like, how do I move forward from this? What skills am I going to apply from a different situation to this current one? So I've got
Mm.
the capacity to be able to like explore my history and pull skills and beliefs from different areas to help in this one.
Mhm.
Um, but the vast majority, so I'm going to say like education is trying to change, but the education system raises fixed mindsets. You have got to pass an exam.
Mhm.
Your whole worth is on your ability to pass an exam.
Yeah.
Like you've met my kids, like how creative and clever are they? And then I've got one who's dyslexic and dyspraxic, and the school system crushes him and it
Mhm.
gives him a fixed mindset.
Mhm.
Society creates a fixed mindset.
Mhm.
Like, and then our parents are in it, our friends are in it, our communities are in this fixed mindset society that says excellence is achieving this house, this
Or you're
car.
born with it,
And then you
which you
hear these
can't
comments
change.
like, "Are you stupid? Are you?" I'm like, "No, don't speak to like your kids like that. Don't speak to yourself like this." Like,
Mhm.
oh God, like laughing when somebody gets something wrong.
Mm.
Yeah, like it just makes my little brain explode because everything should be like when people walk through a door, when my kids walk through a door, like one of them will be like, "Did my 8 times tables today, and I only got 3," and I'm like, "Crushing it. That's 3 more than last week. What did we learn? Like, got it wrong? What's been your failure today? Let's pick that apart. What are the building blocks?" Like, I know this is a massive rant, but it's just like something that
No,
really
but
kind
it
of
makes
gets at
total
me.
sense.
Um, to me, I don't know, were you from what you have told me of your history on these podcasts, it sounds like you're in a really growth mindset environment. "Oh, let's just put her in there. Let's just let her do that. Let's encourage her to take that."
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. My I my mum, she's a strict parent, very strict parent, or was a very strict parent. But I will give her to one thing that she did always says is, as long as you're trying your best, I don't care. And it was almost like, as long as I gave 100% to something, then that was good enough. But then we did have random things like, if you won a medal at sports day, you got to go to the sweet shop. But if you didn't win a medal, you didn't get to go, which is fairly brutal.
It is, but at the same time, does it foster, because that is another conversation, does it foster competitiveness? And
And I was
is that
very,
a bad
very
thing?
competitive. I was very, very competitive. I still am very, very competitive. And yeah, I always try my best. I can't not try my best. And I think that has been instilled is that, I really find it hard to do something at 90%. I think that's also sometimes to my detriment, is that I will pick up every little thing. And if I don't do it to 100% of my ability, then I'm really annoyed.
Perfectionist.
And that is also detrimental
Yeah,
at certain points because you don't have enough time to do 100% of everything all the time. You need to be able to focus on the
yeah,
things that are important. But so there's that side of me. But I think the other side of me was, it might have been when I was around about 18, 19, and it was my first years of going full-time skiing. And I said, if you listen to the previous episode, um the coach that came up to me was like, "Your scores are not good enough. If you want to do it, you've got to do it now." And it was that understanding of, okay, this is where I am now, and this is what reality looks like. And understanding the absolute reality of where I was and knowing where I needed to be and then what I needed to do to get from where I am now to where I needed to be. And just being totally honest with myself because I find a lot of time people don't see the reality, they see where they should be
yeah,
and try and make where what they should be the reality.
yeah.
And you're never going to go anywhere when that's the scenario because you are lying to yourself, trying to lie to everybody around you
The ego.
about exactly having that ego. And as soon as you can let that ego go and you are honest with yourself about your current reality, it's so easy to be in a growth mindset. You're like, this is where I am and I'm fine with it.
But
This
that's
is where I am.
huge.
This is where I am, and that's where I need to be. And these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 processes I need to do. Maybe even to create a little sub goal of the main goal.
Yeah,
And then once you got that sub goal, okay, the next one. You can break things down, and that's just goal setting at the end of the day. And that's where that goal setting comes in. But you cannot even start to goal set or move towards a goal unless you're totally honest about where you currently are.
that,
I
my
think
friend, is the sticky
is the
wicket
bit.
because, how is your love of like I always say like following your bliss because to me that's like literally it. Like, is that more important than saving your own feelings? Because I feel like most people they don't want to sit and have that that
Yeah, well, you're
painfulness.
probably
Like, oh, actually, I'm
like,
shit. Like,
yeah,
I'm literally rubbish. Like, but I
but you're
can
probably
move.
not. You're probably not rubbish. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. Like, okay, you're an athlete. You're an athlete, and like I was. My physical scores are not there, but they're somewhere down around maybe 50%. Like they were bad. They were not great. But at the same time, it's like, well, I have no other option but to admit to myself this is it. But I can still squat 100 kilos. Maybe not
Impressive.
120 or 130 like I should have been, like everybody, like the benchmarks were saying. Or I can run 800 meters relatively fast, but I can't jump onto a box. Well, those are the kind of things that I was dealing with. Like I really couldn't jump, and I couldn't hop in a straight line. They're very basic things I just could not do. Just like, oh well, I can,
I
you've
feel
just got
like
to find the positives, like,
because you've got a growth mindset, Charlie. Like,
yes, yeah, I understand that, but like, you can't just put yourself down, like,
no, you
and I
can't.
don't know that, and it's like, but it is okay to understand there are negative things about you, but you're working on them.
Yes.
So that's my thing. It's like, okay, you don't want to sit there and be like, I'm rubbish. I'm rubbish at everything. I can't do anything, because that's exactly what we're saying. Is like, you just no. I'm gonna say you can't be like that, and it's like I'm trying to think of a positive way to put it, but it's like you can sit there and you can wallow. But at some point, you've just got to be honest. Like, okay, I'm sitting here, I'm wallowing. I can't jump. I can't hop in a straight line. Why don't I just go out into the garden now and I'll just try and hop? Once I can hop, and then you're going to get better. That stuff really quickly.
Yeah. But do you think that then is because, like, as you said that, you said about when that coach came up to you and was like, "You're stuck in the moment," and you're like, "There's no other option." There is another option that 80% of people would have taken, which was like, "I'm no good at this," and walked away, like, in your
Yeah,
but
but
this
okay,
comes
well
back to
then does
your
that, yeah, but is
determination.
that not then just saying, I don't want this enough then? This isn't worth, because I still could have gone, if you okay, at that point in time I did have another option. Yes, I could have stopped skiing, I could have gone to university full time.
Yeah,
That was a very viable option. But like I really wanted to to be a World Cup skier. I really wanted that. And it's like the thought of that possibility being taken away from me
motivated.
motivated me to be honest with where I was. So maybe this is the key. I mean, I'm no expert. I'm literally just
Like,
telling
no,
you
there
my
are but
stuff.
this is like we're both just, like, gabbing about things.
Removing, if an option's removed, you can't stand it. That's probably something that's worth fighting for, being honest with yourself about. Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? It's like if it's something you want enough, you're gonna be honest with yourself about it.
Ah, right, I'm gonna disagree. I am gonna disagree. Just from my own perspective
Okay,
here,
okay.
like, yes, I see the point, and I'm not going to completely discredit the point. I can't discredit it because it's a valid one. The what do you know what? And I'm thinking back to, like, my own kind of vision of growth, and I feel like we've missed a step.
Okay.
So throughout all of this, to get you to such a resilient, like, mindset who is flexible, full of growth, full of, like, realistic optimism, like, grit, hardiness, there has been, like, an evolution in the shedding of ego, shedding yourself throughout that process. And maybe this goes back to your goal setting, to be fair. So the way I'm sitting here is, like, there have been so many, and I know so many people, like, I think I'm really, positively optimistic about most things. I have to work very hard on it, and I have got friends who desperately, and individuals in my orbit who desperately want things,
Mhm.
but they are so petrified to even attempt to
To
take
go
it,
for
so
it.
that they would rather suffer
Understood. Okay, yeah.
than do it. And I think it's because, well, if we're in our comfort zone, so we know we have our comfort zone, don't we? And the brain likes us to be in a comfort
Mhm.
zone, because even if we are in, like, and I had OCD, well, I have OCD, but it crippled me for years. Okay. And
Mhm.
it was unbearable. And I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't drink water. Like, it was just, my symptoms were, like, horrendous. And but my I stayed like that for such a long, long time, because my brain is like, "But you're not gonna die here, you're safe,
Mhm.
and I will make you suffer and keep you safe." And because I knew that, I knew suffering, and it doesn't have to be suffering, but for me in that version, it was suffering. And then I had to take a very small step out of my comfort zone. And that was like, holy hell, this is like painful. And because growth is painful,
Mhm.
because we're
It
evolving.
is.
And then very, very slowly over years, I've been able to like have a conversation with somebody who has made me just slightly change that belief.
Mhm.
And then that's like been like, oh, so I'm definitely going to go away and be like, I'm going to work on assertiveness because I want to be more Charlie in that element. And she has shown me a way to do that.
Mhm.
And so it's small, tiny, but somebody has got to plant that seed of safety that growth can
But
happen.
yes, okay, so I had never actually thought of it from the being scared angle, I suppose, in that moment to take the leap to be like, "I'm going all in."
Yeah, like
Because,
that's like
but I
huge.
wonder if again, and that's what I'm talking about, I was fortunate in opportunities because I was fortunate enough to have probably a basic support structure in my parents, maybe, my mum, who was like, "As long as you're trying your best, it's fine." So didn't make me feel scared of going,
Yeah.
of like really just going at something. And I want what because that I mean, my next question for you is bringing yourself out of that shell, out of that your OCD petrifiedness. Was it a person, or was there a support there, or were you alone trying to do that?
I suppose it's like a mixture of everything, isn't there? I definitely remember there being a point in my life where it was like, I think I'd read Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And at that point, like literally my whole life was like, couldn't leave the house without my husband, like would spend hours stood in my kitchen just breathing because
Mhm.
everything else, like practice on my meditation, my mindfulness, because like nothing else helped. Couldn't drink water, couldn't hold my child, couldn't barely get to work, couldn't do anything. And I read Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I just remember thinking, well, I may as well die. Like, and that was it for me. Like, if this is what life is, kill me because this is horrendous. And I didn't want to die. I didn't want to kill myself, but I was like, at what point do you change? And I have that within me that I was like, so if this feels painful and I'm bored of it and I'm sick of standing in my kitchen, like just breathing to myself, I'm going to feel the fear and do it anyway. And if I die trying in that process, well, I've tried. And
Mhm.
my son can be proud of his mum.
Mm.
Like, and so I feel like that sounds very kind of dramatic and big, but for me, that's what it was.
That's
That I got
massive.
to that point that I was just like, okay, and then it was small. So it was like, okay, I'm gonna get to work today and I'm gonna like work on my panic attacks and I'm going to drink a little bit more water than feels safe, or I'm gonna have MSG in my food. Super like small things until I got there. And I had friends around me who might not have got it, but they would take the piss out of me. And like
Mm.
there became a point where I needed humor,
Mhm.
and so and a lightness, and then it has been a very slow evolution over time that now I'm like, I don't recognize that person in me anymore, but I know that I had to, like, die 1,000 times. Like, there were so many deaths to get me from here there to here that and I often I think, is it a genetic predisposition? It's some people class it as a neurodivergence. My brain is if you scan my brain, it would definitely be different. Um, is it society? Is it like I've got a super growth mindset parents? Like,
Mhm.
is it education? Like, I don't know what created that within me, but I certainly feel the fear of wanting to stay safe
Now.
now. Like, I can connect to that. I can understand why people don't want to push and try
Mhm.
because it's fixed mindset. I was fixed mindset and I was
Mhm.
consumed by I couldn't see anything else until I was like, "Do you know what? Let's push this." And now every time I feel that, I'm like, "What's small?" Like, going back to your idea of like goal setting, I'd love to do a PhD,
Mhm.
but I was never going to be able to get to a
Well, yeah,
PhD
and the
without doing
whole
the
thing
masters.
looks so daunting, doesn't it, until you
Yeah,
break it down, and yeah, so that basic goal setting is incredibly important, I think, and no matter how small or big or whatever the end goal seems, it can always be broken down into smaller ones, but
and we can
yeah,
always
it's
change our
very
beliefs around
interesting.
it. I think that's the thing. Even if we've got fixed mindset, even if you sat there listening and you're like, oh, like where do I begin with, like, following talent or like, following bliss? Like, and I think it kind of hammers home like, your main points that it is our belief around an ability that impacts our outcome.
Mhm.
So, but we can beliefs are changeable.
Yeah, and I think that everything we've spoken about there, isn't it, has
Yeah.
been to do with our beliefs about ourselves.
Yeah, and they evolve if we choose to let them and make that choice. But I genuinely feel as though we have to have an understanding that there are different mindsets. We
Mhm.
have to have somebody to support us to be like,
Yeah, and I think and then that's a huge, huge part, and, you always hear or at least growing up, I always heard people say, "Oh, you've got to have the right people around you. You need to have the right person around you. You need to have the right team," and you hear that when, um, sports people are being interviewed on TV. They've got, "Oh, I've got a great set of people around me. I've got this people," and it never really hit home to me as to what that actually meant until I realized that you genuinely need a proper supportive network around you for you to be able to reach your potential.
yeah,
Nobody ever
agreed.
does it alone. And you might see, yeah, Andy Murray stood there on your tennis, stood there at Wimbledon or whatever, on his own on the court, but he hasn't got there without a coach, without his wife, without
Yeah,
his kids, without his mum, without his physiotherapist, without his surgeon that has put his hip back together.
yeah,
He could never have done all of this by himself.
no,
And I could never have done what I've done without other people. And I think potentially, especially I suppose in British culture, there is this tendency to have that stiff upper lip to
yeah,
say, I don't need help. I don't need anybody to come
yeah,
in. And no, you do,
you
and it's
do.
fine.
But it's,
And
it's
there's
so
nothing,
vulnerable.
yeah. And I think we do hear a lot in narrative of, let people know when you're not okay or let people know when you need help. There's nothing wrong with that. But no, I don't even know how to hammer it home anymore because sometimes you hear these phrases so much that they start to lose their meaning.
Yeah,
But it is a case of let people in, the right people in, people you trust,
yeah,
let people you trust in for whatever reason, and use your instincts as well with that. And and you will be able to build yourself up to be a stronger person. You will be stronger together, like as a community of people, than by yourself.
I applaud you, Charles. Absolutely. And I'm going to go further with that and say we become the average of the 7 people we surround ourselves with. So,
Mhm.
and I used to feel guilt, like, no, these have been my friends since childhood, and like, how could I do that? And then I realized that a lot of my pain was in trying to like stick,
With that same
yeah,
group.
with that same group.
Because, just as you're changing through all these different mindsets and everything, they are as well. You might
Yeah,
not be changing in a way that is gonna necessarily suit you, I suppose.
exactly. And so I definitely feel like my husband is my kind of greatest supporter, but he doesn't care how well I do at business. Like he wants to know if I'm a decent person. Like that's what his like, are you? Because he's so moral. Like, and I need that in my life. I need my mum to be the yay sayer and be like, you can do anything. Like, I need that like fluffer. I need the person that just sees my soul, like the light in me sees the light in you, and like has that. So it has to be, I need that one person who's gonna pull me on my bullshit.
Mm,
Like, the one person who's doing better than me that I can aspire to, the one person that is on a level with me that I can run against,
yeah.
the one person who is, like, following behind me that I can, like, "Come on, like, this is the path."
Mhm.
And then the person who's known me forever. Like, I don't know how many people that was, but I feel as though it's super strategic, like,
Yeah.
for all of us, and we tend to fall into that trap of, these are the individuals I've known
But you will
forever.
also be drawn towards people, won't you, that fit your life as it is now, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yes.
Like, mm, so maybe getting a bit too, like, magical.
Go
But,
for
like,
it. All about it, Charles.
when we talk about, like, energies, right?
Yes.
And you are drawn to people who match your energy, your
Yes.
vibration, right? And they say that you're emitting a frequency, don't
You are. I
and if
agree
you
with
have
that.
people that are matching that frequency, you're more likely to you're obviously gonna form a better relationship, etcetera, etcetera, etcetera. But obviously that can change as you get more stressed or as different components come in or out of your life. But I genuinely I don't know the science, so
There will
this
be
is
some
just a
science.
theory that I'm bringing to you today. Um, that I genuinely think people come in and out of your life for an absolute reason based on where you are now. And as soon as you just have to start forcing relationships. Yes, they can always be worked upon, but if you're forcing relationship,
Yes.
then you do need to have a question with yourself as to why you're
Yeah.
forcing it.
I'm with you. I feel like I've recently learned that lesson,
Mm.
like forcing for, and it's like everybody said that same thing. Lou, it was like for a reason or a season or whatever it is. And I was like, no, like this has got to, like this has been like so many years. Feel like it served you. And those relationships may come back in the future, just like you were saying,
Mm.
when it is necessary, when you have that need for each other.
Yeah,
But at the minute, like that's not where you're at, and that's not the energy that needs to be there.
yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely. And I feel as though we discussed fixed and growth mindsets. One thing I'd like to like clear up there is we can discuss beliefs forever, and we can actually break down how we can go into our belief cycle, and we can look at the kind of cognitive behavioral aspects of that. But we know that when we look at growth mindset and a fixed mindset, the only thing that means really is that they are beliefs. They are beliefs about how we see our abilities. And we can have a fixed mindset about one thing and a growth mindset about another. So I have definitely got a fixed mindset about maths. You know,
Mhm.
I am useless. But I've got a growth mindset about people. I like people are wonderful, wonderful things, and I will do my best to talk to as many people as I can. So people then want to talk to me because
Mhm.
I'm curious and I'm open and I don't mind embarrassing myself.
Mhm.
Like, and so when we discuss it, and if people are sat there listening, thinking, "Oh my god, I'm so fixed mindset," you're not. Like, there is an element of your life that is fixed mindset, but you are growth mindset and so many other, and you want
But
to
also, I
find that
think
and pull it across.
at the basis of this as well is you can choose what you wanna be, whether it's fixed or growth. You're not born, you're not
No,
innately
it's
one or other.
learned. No,
You know what I mean? You
absolutely.
have the ability to choose
Yeah,
which side you're on with things. It's definitely not something that you're like, "Oh, I've got a fixed mindset with maths and I'm born with it," or "This is how it
yeah,
is." It's like, no, you could go and do maths if you wanted
yeah.
to.
You just got to unpick all of these beliefs. Like, you've just watched me like finish my masters, and that was like literally studying positive psychology, studying growth mindset. I had a fixed mindset through the end of that, like you wouldn't believe, all based off like historical, outdated beliefs.
Yeah.
So I had to like, oh well, like from uni, which was like OCD central. So, oh my goodness, like remember how painful it was at uni. Therefore,
Mm.
it has to be painful now. It has to be hard now. You're going to not have the capacity to do it now. So it's like unpicking it as you go, like recognizing it, like, oh, that's holding me back. Like, is that like questioning it? Like, oh, you aren't capable. Right. Okay. Is that little Lucy or is that now?
Yeah.
Like, let's find some evidence
Yeah, and I
to,
think that to
prove,
me,
disprove that.
that is the being honest with where you are now. Because being honest with the where you are now doesn't always have to be negative, does it? It can be positive.
I feel like that was a revelation for me. No, you're right. Of course, it can be
Yeah.
positive. I took that entirely through a negative lens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So did I, to be fair. And then I said it there and I was like, hold on a second. But if you're being honest with where you are now, like that Lucy who couldn't leave her kitchen, it doesn't exist anymore. Like
no.
that's not a thing.
And that Lucy is so proud of the Lucy that she sees now.
Yeah.
Like, super proud. But yeah, she doesn't. She died, and that was good.
Yeah, and that's the same for me. Like the Charlie that believed that I was terrible at all sorts of power exercises and jumping. Turns out I'm actually very good at them. I just needed practice.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And so like that part of me that's like, oh, I'm not good at power. It's a very, very niche aspect, yeah. But it's I can embrace it now. I can embrace all those exercises and all those sessions because I know that actually I can be good at this. I just need to keep putting one foot in front of the other.
yeah.
So muddling along, so to
Modeling.
speak,
Yeah, that's
and I'll get
exactly it,
there.
though, isn't it? It's like failing gloriously in
Yes,
forward
direction.
yeah. It is literally. Oh, it's so interesting, isn't it? Like 'cause people just aren't aware. Like, and I wasn't aware of beliefs. I thought I was a victim of circumstance.
Mm,
Like, and that was it. That was my lot. I was OCD. I was this.
yeah.
Learning that we have. What is there's the happiness split. We are roughly 40% genetic. 10% circumstance. So, are we born with a disability? Are we born into a war zone, into an abusive household? And then the other kind of like 40 to 50% is within our control. So, our ability to develop and grow is so much within our power. Like we can literally change our neural pathways, to change our brains, regulate our nervous system, like overwrite all kind of somatic markers. We have to know that we can.
Mm,
Like because otherwise, if you don't know that you can change or there's different mindsets, like you just feel stuck.
mhm.
But I think to me, it's such an empowering statistic. Like we're at least 40% completely of our own making, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. We
pretty
have the
cool.
power to change. Like, in if we look at that, then at least 40% of us,
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
it is. It makes me just want to go and like do some incredible things. I just need to work on being assertive. Cool beans. I reckon I've got to go and pick my kids up from school now. So let's call it here,
Go and
Charlie.
get them.
Sure. Thank you so much for being an awesome human and joining me.
No, well, it's been fun. It's been good discussions.
It
I
has.
feel like we've both learned a lot. A little
Yeah,
bit there. It's
I
been kind
do.
of mind blowing.
Yeah.
I hope this makes sense when we go back and re-listen
I
to it.
hope so. Like, you listen to it anyway, people. Like, like if we've taken things from it, then I'm hoping that you will have as well. Yes, thank you.